20 years is a long time to build a life with someone. Long enough to believe you know every version of them. Long enough to stop questioning small changes. On the morning of our 20th wedding anniversary, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting my tie, telling myself this day was supposed to mean something. Survival. Commitment. Proof that we had made it. My wife was downstairs, arranging decorations for the small celebration we planned with family and close friends. Balloons, a banner, the same smile she had perfected over decades. From the outside, we looked like a success story. 2 kids grown, a house paid off, routines polished smooth by time. But my body had been betraying me for months. Persistent pain, doctor visits I didn't talk about, tests I hoped would come back normal. When the diagnosis finally came, the room felt smaller. The doctor's voice was calm, clinical. An STD, one I couldn't have gotten anywhere else. I didn't confront her right away. I needed certainty. Not anger, truth. Because after 20 years, I didn't want to believe the woman I loved could hurt me like that. Yet the silence between us had already started telling a different story. Looking back, the signs were there long before the diagnosis. Late nights explained away by work stress. New attention to her appearance. A phone that never left her side. I noticed them but dismissed my instincts because trusting your spouse feels safer than questioning them. When I finally asked her, casually, carefully, she laughed it off. "You're imagining things," she said, touching my arm like reassurance was a reflex. I wanted to believe her. I needed to. Our entire life was built on that belief. Inside, though doubt grew heavy, I replayed conversations, moments when she seemed distant, times when intimacy felt rushed or absent. I blamed myself first. Maybe I'd grown boring. Maybe this was what long marriages turned into, quiet compromises and emotional distance. The doctor's words echoed in my head at night. I lay next to her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, wondering how 2 people could share a bed while living completely different truths. I felt foolish for trusting blindly, but more than that, I felt afraid. Afraid of asking questions that might break everything. Afraid of confirming what my body already knew before my heart was ready to accept it. The confirmation came by accident. A message notification flashed across her phone while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even trying. But the name wasn't familiar, and the message wasn't subtle. My hand shook as I scrolled. Months of conversations. Jokes. Complaints about me. Plans made during times she said she was busy. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling something inside me collapse slowly, like a structure giving way one beam at a time. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it. That hurt more than any lie could have. She said it started as feeling alive again. She said she didn't mean for it to go that far. Then came the sentence I still hear in my sleep. "It actually made our marriage better," she said. I came home happier. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. She talked about how the affair helped her appreciate me more, how it filled a gap. Meanwhile, I sat there realizing my pain, my illness, my humiliation were being reframed as some twisted form of self-improvement. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared into the dark, realizing betrayal doesn't always come with cruelty. Sometimes it comes wrapped in justification. I moved through the days like a ghost. I went to work. I answered emails. I nodded during conversations I didn't hear. Inside, I was unraveling. The physical pain from the infection was one thing. The emotional damage was something else entirely. She acted normal, almost relieved, as if telling me had lifted a burden for her. She suggested therapy. "We can grow from this," she said. "People survive worse." I wondered if she understood that survival isn't the same as healing. I didn't tell anyone. Not my kids. Not my friends. Shame has a way of isolating you, convincing you that silence is dignity. But silence also gave me time to think. To connect dots. To understand how long I'd been choosing comfort over truth. The anniversary plans continued. Family invitations were sent. Toasts were expected. Everyone was excited. I smiled when necessary, but inside, something hardened. I realized the celebration wasn't about love anymore. It was about illusion. And illusions, I decided, don't deserve protection at the cost of someone else's dignity. The night before the anniversary, I sat alone in the living room, lights off, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. I thought about the man I was before this. Trusting. Calm. Proud of the life I'd built. That version of me didn't exist anymore. I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't interested in shouting or humiliating her out of rage. What I wanted was balance. Truth to match the performance everyone was about to applaud. I wrote notes, not dramatic speeches, just facts. Dates. Messages. Medical records folded carefully into an envelope. Not to weaponize, but to ground myself. To remind myself I wasn't imagining any of it. I asked myself a hard question. If I stay silent tomorrow, who am I protecting? The answer was uncomfortable. I wasn't protecting my marriage. I was protecting her image. And it had already cost me my health. That realization didn't make me angry. It made me calm. Calm enough to know exactly what I was going to do. The anniversary gathering was warm, cheerful, full of laughter. Glasses clinked. Someone joked about marriage goals. I watched my wife move through the room, smiling effortlessly, accepting compliments like she had earned them honestly. When it was time for speeches, people looked at me expectantly. 20 years. They wanted gratitude, romance, inspiration. I stood up slowly, feeling my heart pound, not with fear but resolve. I spoke calmly. I thanked everyone for being there. Then I said the one thing no one expected. I believe love requires honesty. The room grew quiet. My wife's smile froze. I didn't dramatize. I didn't insult. I stated the truth. About the affair. About the diagnosis. About learning the hard way that silence protects the wrong people. Gasps filled the room. Someone stood up. Someone else whispered my name. My wife tried to interrupt, but I didn't let her. Not out of cruelty, but because I had been interrupted for years by my own fear. The aftermath was chaotic. People left early. Conversations fractured. My wife cried, accused me of ruining everything. I listened, but her words no longer held power over me. I had already lost more than reputation. That night, the house felt empty in a new way. Not lonely, honest. For the first time in months, I felt aligned with myself. Exhausted, yes. Broken, still. But no longer carrying a lie that was poisoning me slowly. She asked why I did it publicly. I told her the truth. Because my pain was never private, I said. It lived in my body, in my silence, in every room we shared. I didn't know what would happen next. Divorce, separation, therapy. None of it was clear. What was clear was that I could no longer heal while pretending everything was fine. The weeks after were heavy. There were legal conversations, medical treatments, long walks alone. I questioned myself constantly. Did I go too far? Was there another way? But every time doubt crept in, my body reminded me why silence had failed. Friends reached out quietly. Some didn't. That hurt, but it also simplified things. I learned who valued truth over comfort. I learned how much strength it takes to choose yourself after decades of choosing us. I wasn't celebrating the exposure. I was accepting its consequences. Accountability, I learned, doesn't feel victorious. It feels lonely and necessary at the same time. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I missed the familiarity of my old life. Other days, I felt lighter than I had in years. Therapy helped. Not to fix the marriage, but to understand my own boundaries. I began rebuilding trust with myself first. Eating better. Sleeping without fear. Letting anger exist without letting it define me. Progress came in quiet moments, not grand transformations. My wife and I spoke occasionally. Not as partners, but as two people facing the results of their choices. There were no promises. Just honesty. And that was enough for now. I don't tell this story for shock. I tell it because betrayal doesn't always look dramatic. It often hides behind smiles and celebrations. And silence doesn't make pain noble. It makes it contagious. 20 years taught me that love without honesty is performance. That protecting someone else's image at the cost of your health is not loyalty, it's self-erasure. And that truth, even when it destroys an illusion, can be the first step toward real healing. If there's one lesson I carry forward, it's this. You are allowed to speak, even when it makes others uncomfortable. Especially then. Sometimes, exposure isn't about revenge. It's about survival.